Hey, Greg here, founder of Wrestling-Divas.webs.com, your source for highlighting the most beautiful and deadly entertainers in professional wrestling. My next special guest is a pro wrestler, manager, and model whose wrestling heritage speaks for itself. Her father is a legendary member of the original Four Horsemen, alongside the likes of Ric Flair. Hoping to continue her family's wrestling legacy as well as build a unique one of her own is the daughter of WWE Hall of Famer Tully Blanchard, Tessa Blanchard, and I'd like to welcome her to the program. Hi, Tessa. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Before we get to your career and how that got started, I have to talk about recent events. You appeared on WWE programming earlier this month, both Raw and SmackDown, alongside Adam Rose. And for those who don't know, he's a new character. His character is a very rowdy, outgoing, animated, and fun party goer. So in the segments, you were one of his rosebuds, and you appeared alongside a lot of other different wrestlers, and you had funky costumes. I've had multiple guests on the program who are either with the WWE now or have appeared in other segments, and they always tell me that it's a larger-than-life experience, that the production is done without error. What was your thoughts on how the segments went, and really, what are you going to take away from the experience that you feel will enhance your career heading into the future?
Yes, I was on Raw and SmackDown with Adam Rose and a bunch of other indie wrestlers and a few stars that are down at NXT. Honestly, it was such a blessing to be there and be a part of that. I've grown up around that environment, kind of, just having my dad who he is and, like, being backstage, meeting the stars that I've always looked up to since I was little. So just kind of to be back in that environment on my own this time was truly such a blessing. I got to work with Cassidy Taylor, Jesse Wyndham, Billy Brash. Those are three of the indie wrestlers here on the East Coast, and seeing how much they've helped me, it's so selfless. It's honestly amazing to see how selfless some of the wrestlers can be, and automatically, I love it. It's awesome.
So you grew up around wrestling, so to say, all your life. Your father is a recent WWE Hall of Famer. Not everyone in the wrestling world who's a fan makes the transition to actual professional wrestler, even if they also have family members who are involved in the business somehow. So what would you say was the defining moment in your life that made you decide that you wanted to pursue professional wrestling seriously?
That's a good question. Around 2012 was when my dad got the call that he was going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And so he waited a little bit to let us know just to make sure everything was finalized. And then he let my brothers and sisters and I know. And we were all really excited because we all got to go down there with him for WrestleMania, for the Hall of Fame, for all the events, backstage, meet all the stars. It was a huge event for us. So we get down there, and my brothers and sisters, they all wanted to go to the beach and go tour Miami. I was more interested in going with my dad to all the radio interviews and all the backstage stuff that my brothers and sisters kind of found boring, but I was just so intrigued by it. Really, I think what made me really consider it was we got up at 5 o'clock in the morning when we were down there. We get on the bus to go down to guest access, and Sheamus is up front. I'm sitting next to Kelly and Beth Phoenix. Daniel Bryan is in the back seat with my dad, and the divas are just talking to me about the lifestyle and how it is being on the road and how it is a lot of hard work, but it's the most rewarding experience. And I was like, wow, I'm young, but I can do this one day. And then over the course of time, coming back to Charlotte, I found a place where I can train. I'm training at High Spots now with George South, and I'm getting really good at it. I found something. I was shown something that I'm good at. I can progress at. I can make money doing it, and I enjoy it. I can make a living off this one day, and it's such a blessing.
So we've had another second-generation special guest on Amber Young, the daughter of former TNA superstar David Young. And she said that when she started out in the industry and began training, she was under a lot of pressure because it was, David Young's daughter starting out. And she found it hard to rise to the occasion and to really break away from the wrestling name that she had, as well as serve that name proudly. Did you feel under pressure at all when you first started out that you had such a legacy following you? How did you rise to the occasion and make sure that everybody knew that you wanted to take this seriously?
Well, I feel pressure with that every single day, every single event I go to, because my dad has such an amazing legacy to live up to. My stepdad has such an amazing legacy to live up to. And I'm so blessed to have my fathers and be a third generation and have the last name that I do. But the one thing I want is that I don't want to be confused or mistaken with having a sense of entitlement, because I have my last name, it'll get my foot in the door. My last name, it'll get me in front of the right people. My last name might get me bookings. It might get me noticed. But my last name isn't going to get me in the ring and teach me how to take a bump. My last name isn't going to get me in the ring and make me look good. My last name isn't going to teach me how to be a great wrestler. It may get me in front of the right people, but it's not going to do all the hard work for me. And I don't want to be handed anything because of who my fathers are. I want to be great in this business, and I want to work hard, pay my dues, set up the ring, set up chairs, be around wrestling as much as I can, and earn my spot, just like my fathers did.
So I'm sure that growing up you saw wrestling shows a lot, either on TV or going to these events, and I'm sure that you had some perception of what wrestling was when you were growing up. How did actually stepping into the ring and training change your perception of what wrestlers go through on a daily basis?
Well, when I was a little girl, I remember going to some of the shows. I remember one show in Lenore, North Carolina, where I saw my dad wrestle for the first time. The Rock and Roll Express was there. Midnight Express was there. Everyone, all these old stars were there. I didn't really know who they were around that time. I was just a little girl. But my dad, during his match, he was gushing out blood, and I'm maybe 6, 7 years old, crying my eyes out, running down ringside, making sure my dad's okay, and everyone's trying to pull me away. But I thought wrestling was the scariest thing. I was absolutely terrified whenever I saw videos or stuff that I might see when I was a little girl with my dad. It scared me so bad. I thought that everyone was getting the crap beat out of them. But now that it's kind of like I'm in the ring and I'm learning how to control myself and sometimes not control myself, but just being in the ring and getting all the knowledge and counselship from the mentors that I do have, things have changed so much. I'm learning and growing so much as a woman and as a wrestler, and hopefully will continue to do so.
So wrestling is a male-dominated industry, and of course this website is dedicated to female performers. And every guest that I've had on has said that, it's always not necessarily a lot tougher for a girl to make a name for herself, but it's just different. So, of course, looking the part is, part of what you need to do, and it's part of the package because it's entertainment. But how do you make sure that as a performer that you just don't want to be looked at superficially, you want to be taken seriously inside the ring while still having your femininity?
I think that's a issue that as a female you're going to run into regardless. People are going to look at you and automatically think, oh, an attractive chick that's in shape, and get the wrong idea. But that's where training your butt off, getting in the ring day after day, week after week, in the gym, making yourself look good, eating right, being healthy, that's how you're going to be taken seriously, is by putting in all the hard work. You're going to run into the problem of being a female and looked at as an object, no matter where you go in today's time. But what I do, I make people take me seriously. Sometimes it's hard, but I don't want shortcuts. I don't want the easy way out because I'm a girl. I want to do it just like the guys do. I want to continue to do something until I get it right. I want to put forth just as much effort as the guys do. I don't want the easy way out.
So when you're going into the wrestling industry, you're not only thrusted into the physical side, but the emotional side and the politics side as well. Was adjusting to the backstage scene really difficult for you, and what kind of things have you learned about the industry and also about yourself through conducting yourself as a professional?
Backstage, I kind of grew up around that stuff, so it wasn't as hard to like adjust to it. Of course, nowadays it's a little bit different. It's my turn to be back there, and just being around the guys and everything. It's backstage. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied a little bit. Being backstage, it's a waiting game, honestly. Like, you adjust to the waiting game. You get to be around some of the most amazing people, and you get to see them just on their own time and learn so much from them and absorb so much knowledge. And I've learned how to respect them and listen to them and watch them and execute the advice that they give me. I remember being backstage this past weekend. We were in catering, sitting around, just talking, and Arn Anderson comes up to me and he said, "Tessa Blanchard, you've got the bug." And I was like, it made me the happiest girl in the world, because I was in this business. I was so blessed to have my dad and my stepdad who they are, and they've shown me something, mentored me through something, counseled me through this business, and they're still continuing to do so. But this is something that I know I can be great at. I'm not anywhere near where I can be, but I know that I can do this, and I know I can be amazing at it. And just having my dad and my stepdad and the mentorship of my grandpa when he was around just makes it that much better.
So certainly in wrestling there's no guarantees. I mean, it is a business and it's part of the entertainment industry. Not everyone who pursues this gets to live out the big dream, quote unquote, and wrestle for the WWE or any other televised show. However, you can certainly reach success other ways. So how would you define what success is in this industry, and what makes you happy about pursuing wrestling as a career?
The one thing that my dad continues to tell me, and we were at dinner the other day, and he told me this as well, is that as much as I want this and as much as of a dream this is to me, I have to look at this like a job. If you can't make a living off of it, or you're not, basically, WWE is the only way you're going to make a living out of this business. Nothing can hold a candle to it today. All the independent promotions and everything, they're part-time. If you're doing them, you have a shoot job as well. My dad tells me to look at this like a job. If I want to be great at this and I want to put forth the hard work, then I'm going to be able to make a living off of it and do it forever. And to be successful, the way I find success in this business is I'm in the ring 3-4 times a week. I'm in the gym when I'm not, maybe 2 to 3 times a day, working my ass off, just putting forth everything that I can and then some, because I have never wanted anything so bad in my whole life. Wrestling is like, it's all I've ever wanted since I was about 10 or 12 years old. Sometimes I can't eat, I can't sleep, I'm physically shaking because this is all I want. And I never really understood who my dad was growing up, because that was just dad to me. You know, he snores, he rubs my feet, he watches golf. He was just dad. And growing up, my parents got divorced really young, and he wasn't around too much until a little bit later in my childhood. And so Magnum TA, my stepdad, he played a huge, huge role in raising me. And mentoring me, counseling me, making me a woman of God. And I'm honestly, I'm so humbled and blessed to have my dad and my stepdad in my life and teach me what success is.
So moving on to the more physical side and the performance side of wrestling, a big component, and arguably many would say is the most important component of any wrestling match, is the in-ring psychology. And, of course, your father and the rest of the Horsemen, I mean, they're generals in that sense. I mean, Ric Flair kind of speaks for himself, and Arn Anderson, they're great with in-ring psychology. What is your interpretation of what in-ring psychology should be, and what have you been learning about it over the course of your career?
Goodness, I'm so new. I'm still learning every single time I step in the ring, as most people are. But when I'm in the ring, there's three people in the ring. It's you, your opponent, and the ref. And you're in the ring. You're feeding off of each other. It just works. Everything you do, the reversals, everything it's like a big puzzle. And psychologically, it just works somehow. The ref, I did not understand how much of a part he plays in the ring until I got in the ring. He is absolutely a huge factor. He will help so much. But being in the ring, you and your opponent, you're kind of feeding off of each other. It's not about you versus someone. It's not you against someone. You're working together in the ring to put on a show, to entertain the fans. That's the goal, to make people entertained. And just like my opponent is going to make me look like an absolute superstar, I'm going to make her look like an absolute superstar. We're going to make each other look great. And in the long run, it'll look like we're beating the crap out of each other. Or it'll make the fans absolutely entertained, and that's the main goal, is to keep them coming back, keep busting the seats, and overall entertain them.
So working together is certainly, like you said, an important key for a wrestling match. And I watched some of your managing work online over the past couple of days, and you certainly have the gift of gab. You were playing a heel, and you certainly got on the fans' nerves, to say they certainly didn't like you or your clients, and hats off for you doing your job really well. Certainly, when you step in that ring, whether as a manager and you're cutting a promo or a wrestler and you're working with somebody, what is the thing that you want fans to take away from your character and yourself? I mean, when I think of Tessa Blanchard, what do you want me to think about?
When you think of Tessa Blanchard, I want you to think of the baddest girl around. She's mean. You hate her, but you love to hate her. I want to be kind of like my dad was. He was, honestly, I study some of the legends and the 80s, 90s wrestling so much. I study it. I watch it over and over and over again, and I'm not even trying to put my family over, but my dad was hands down one of the best heels of all time. And seeing matches like him and my stepdad in their Starrcade 85 I Quit match, one of the most famous matches of all time, things like that, it's one of the most brutal matches, and sometimes people just want to see a brutal, brutal fight. And I want people to think of me like that. I want to be one of the baddest girls around. I want you to hate me, but I want you to love to hate me. That's what I want you to think when you think of Tessa Blanchard.
So when coming up with inspiration, when studying those tapes of the legends in this industry or certain indie stars that catch your eye, there's a big difference between imitation and emulation. And, of course, inspiration comes from, certain sources. But how do you differentiate imitation from emulation and make sure that it doesn't come off like you're ripping somebody off?
honestly, like I said, I'll go to YouTube. I'll get some of my old videos that my dad's given me, or I'll go back. I'll study on the internet, look at different styles of wrestling, watch how people do moves, how long someone will hold someone in a hold for, how long, like, study just different aspects of a match. And you can go back, watch it 6 or 7 times and learn something new every time. And just honestly studying, watching, surrounding yourself with wrestling kind of gives you a feel for the different styles, makes you want to try new things in the ring, makes you want to execute just different styles. And I guess that doesn't really make it imitation if you just kind of get a feel for it. Be like, oh, I think I saw this one time. Let me try it and put my own spin on it. You know, like that kind of came around when I was watching some NXT tapings. I saw Ashley Flair do one of her dad's moves, but she put something of her own in it. Like, she changed it up a little bit and made it her own. But that's what you can do, really, is like take moves that no one would ever think of doing, but do something a little bit different. Do something that's going to catch the audience's eye. Do something that's going to make them be like, whoa, and then wait a minute and kind of regroup.
They always say that once you enter the industry, no matter how far you make it, you never truly exit it. So when your career has run its course and you're wrapping up as a performer, how do you think professional wrestling and what you've done will continue to influence what you continue to do for the rest of your life?
I 100% agree with that statement. You'll see some of the guys that wrestled around the time with my dad still in the ring, still living it up. But if I make it as far as I want to, and when it's time for me to, say goodbye or kind of step out of the ring for a while, honestly, I think I'll always want to go to events. I'll always want to be around fans. I'll always want to do that because it really came to light when I was at Trans-South Wrestling in Union County about a month ago, and a little girl, almost 4 years old, comes up to me, and she goes, Tessa, I want to be just like you when I grow up. And she looked at me like I was some kind of superstar. And that feeling is one of the most humbling feelings in the whole world. It's one of the greatest feelings in the whole world. I almost started to cry because in this business, you have an opportunity to be a role model, be an idol to a group of people, to a select audience, and that's one of the most rewarding things in life, I guess, to me at least, is to be able to influence, help others, and be looked up to.
So before we wrap up, this is one of my most favorite questions to ask, and it's become a bit of a tradition, you could say. If you could sum up your experience as a professional wrestler so far, just in one word, what would it be?
Humbling. Honestly, humbling. Like I said, I'm unbelievably blessed to have my stepfather, my dad, and my grandpa all be in the business, to be a third generation. I'm unbelievably blessed because not many people can say that. But it's absolutely incredibly humbling, incredibly.
So I know that you have certain ways that people can contact you, whether it be for fan mail or for bookings. I'm pretty sure that you're destined for the big time, but for now, how can people reach you to get in contact with you, whether for signings or for shows or whatnot? How can they do that?
You can reach me. I'm on Facebook, Tessa Blanchard. I'm on Twitter it's at Team T Blanchard. My email you guys can reach me at is TessaMB1@gmail. And those are the main sources of contact that people have been reaching me at so far, but that's where you guys can find me.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Tessa. It's very rare that I get a third-generation, I think you're the first third-generation superstar that I've ever had as a special guest. So I really appreciate your insight, and I really am truly honored. So I have no doubt you're just scratching the surface as far as your career goes. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks to everyone else for tuning in. Be sure to check out www.wrestling-divas.webs.com for more content, and follow the site at Wrestling Divas, again on Twitter, for all the latest updates.